Okay. Once I send you thumbs up, you can start the live.
Papa, இப்ப நம்ம ரெண்டு பேரும் மட்டும் visible.
Start பண்ணு. Good day, everyone. I'm Thwisha, the founder of Glee Health and Wellness. I'm an exercise therapist and kinesiologist.
Hi, myself Ashwini. I'm a strength and conditioning coach, co-founder of Glee Health and Wellness organization.
We'll just quickly screen share.
Is the screen visible to everybody? Screen is visible?
Yeah, go ahead.
So today we brought about an interesting topic, which is effects of physical activity in individuals with autism. So first, let me give you a quick background of why we choose this topic in the first place. So we have two prime goals. One is to make the physical activity accessible to all individuals with autism. Another reason is to make sure the physical activity is implemented in a very safe and effective environment. Let me give you a small introduction on this. So we all think when it comes to physical activity, we orient ourselves that physical activity can give us only the physical benefits, but that's not true. A physical activity can help us in many ways, such as emotionally, cognitively, and even socially. It can help us to better ourselves and our well-being. So today we are going to cover 5 major topics related to physical activity in autism. So first, we are going to see what could be the consequences or issues we might face if we are not physically active. And next, we'll be discussing the benefits associated with physical activity in autism. And third, we'll be also covering different methods we use to train an autism individual. Fourth, we'll also be discussing on the barriers and the issues we faced and how we overcome. We are discussing that in the last. We are about to give you the guidelines for safely and effectively implementing the training programs. So let me start with the complications which might arise because of physical inactivity. First, there are various studies which has concluded people with autism and people with physical inactivity together can lead to obesity. And it is estimated like 72% high chance of them getting obesity. Apart from that, there are various health risk factors such as asthma. Because as you don't train, your lung capacity start to decline. And that might lead to asthmatic condition. And even you are prone to get type 2 diabetic mellitus because you are not using your glucose store in an effective way. And also there is a high chance of you getting cholesterol and blood pressure because your cardiovascular system is not effectively utilized. And also people get to have so much mobility and postural issues because they are not moving their joint in an effective or full range of motion. Last is the health conditions. So they are more prone to get anxiety and depression because of so much of social anxiety which they possess. So moving forward.
So the benefits of physical activity. Ashwini just explained what are the, the factors that arises due to physical inactivity. So the benefits of physical activity. So let's start with the physical health benefits. So you can clearly see improvements in cardiovascular health as the blood circulation improves, and it reduces the risk of heart disease. Increase in lean body mass. So exercise helps maintain the muscle tissue and increases the lean body mass, which increases the physical fitness. And in turn, it decreases the adiposity, the body fat, which, helps balance the energy and energy expenditure, making it easier to maintain a healthy weight. Also, a consistent and a structured training program can help you increase your strength gain, muscle endurance, and your muscle strength. So decrease in musculoskeletal injury risk. So for example, individuals with autism have like a higher risk of injuries. So physical activity improves their musculoskeletal injury strength. In turn, it decreases their injury risk. And then the next one would be, so neurological and cognitive benefits. So in our experience, we have seen that physical activity has improved. So it improves your blood circulation to your brain cells. In turn, it increases the focus, your memory, your coordination, and motor skills. The next one would be a mind-muscle connection. So a mind-muscle connection is something, for example, if you're teaching your child or an individual with autism to squat, we have seen after 6 to 8 weeks, they would just remember, so what a squat is. So initially, when you're teaching them, they do not know what a squat is. So it helps improve the muscle mind connection and the muscle memory. And of course, reduces the cardiovascular disease risk factors. And sleep has always been a major issue for individuals with autism. So when you increase the physical activity, it improves your sleep quality. And then social and behavioral improvements. Trust me, in my experience, I've seen a lot of individuals when they perform group games and group dance and exercises, it decreases their stress, social anxiety, and sensory issues. As human beings, we all release endorphins when we exercise. So it makes them feel more comfortable and confident. It improves their social interaction and communication, especially connect with their peers when we are exercising in a group, and then coordination with their peers and supervisors and the coaches. We've also seen reduction in destructive behavior and stereotypical behaviors, for example, like aggression and things like that. Enhances academic functioning and sensory processing, like I said before, because the focus and memory and coordination, all of these increases with physical activity. It helps in academic functioning. So some measurable outcomes can be like, so for weight control, you can measure it with BMI, and then overall improvements in mental and social health. So the next one would be various physical activity modalities for individuals with autism. So group games and dance sessions, I'm personally a great fan of this, just because especially for beginners. So, you have to make physical activity a fun environment for them to just come back to it. So after, when they are in a routine, after like 3 to 4 weeks, when you're saying, oh, today at 11 o'clock, we have a session with Coach Thwisha, you have to see the spark in your child or the individual's eye. That's how you have to make the physical activity session look like. So group games and dance sessions, you can perform exercises in a dance. It can be like, games, any sort of, that will keep them involved and will increase the fitness parameters. Swimming and aquatherapy. So swimming increases your muscle endurance, strength, and increases your flexibility. And we all know swimming is a super fun activity. So it is a great way to get your individual involved. Outdoor activities. So any nature-based activities, it has a sensory stimuli with it, right? So let it be hiking, kayaking, an outdoor run, or just playing in the park, right? It is a great way to enhance the physical activity with, incorporating sensory stimulus. Structured circuit training and modified exercise-based sessions. This is a great way to increase physical activity to like intermediate and advanced level of fitness. The next one, yoga and guided mindfulness practice. Yoga is a slow movement, and we all know it is a great way to increase your flexibility and strength, especially in individuals with autism. Any slow movement based therapy is very good for them. Guided mindfulness practice, I'm personally a great fan of this again, because a guided mindfulness session, let it be for 3 to 5 minutes, doesn't matter. But then they are focused, they are listening to things. It improves their coordination, their memory, their focus. It calms them down, reduces their anxiety. Like, I mean, you know what? There are n number of benefits for a guided mindfulness practice with an exercise session. The next one is sensory therapy based activities. For example, you can incorporate like cones, like where they can feel, touch, and like actually have a stimulus with an exercise session.
So after seeing all benefits and all outcome of physical activity with autism, we were so excited. We were so excited to start with the training session. But the reality is far beyond what we thought, because there comes the barriers. We face so much issues and concerns initial phase of our training session, because those things are unexpected. But we made it very simple for you with 4 major category of barriers, which you might expect in near future when you start with physical activity. First is the motor skill, and next going to be the social interaction abilities, and their third processing issues, sensory processing issues which they possess, and fourth could be the environmental factor in which they usually train. Let me break down this further detail so that you can take some positive or input from this. So let me start with motor deficit. So initially when we start them to teach squat, they were not able to perform a squat just because they were not able to coordinate hip, knee, and ankle, because they were not aware how to do the movement as a whole. And mainly because they have very poor coordination in general, and they are also facing so much of postural issues. So it was hard for us to teach any sort of overhead activities and all this. And their muscle contraction ability was also very low. So that made us very difficult to progress from 5 kg to even to 7.5. It took us so much time and effort to make that happen. So in general, they will be find hard to execute a complex movement together. So for that, we have to work on simplifying the movement and then making them to perform. And next could be the social interaction barrier. So generally, there is very less social acceptance when people with autism are start to train among with the community. So we see them differently. We start to bully them. We start to isolate them. We start to not play from them. These all makes them feel so anxious, and this create a negative aspect for them to go out and play and enjoy the playing outdoors as well. And next, the environmental factor. Small things like light, sound, even a space can affect their participation. For example, if there is a loud sound, maybe from traffic outside the training area, but still they might get irritated because of the sound disturbance. So we have to create an environment which is similar almost every single day, so that they don't get distracted because of the other things around the environment. And when it comes to the sensory response, the kid can respond in a 2 different way when you start them with physical activity. Either they can be hypersensitive, like they might be overreacting, or they might be hyperreacting to any particular exercise, or the other way, they might be hyposensitive as well. So you have to teach them, reteach them to get an effective outcome from those individuals. So apart from these 4 factors, slowly we start to notice few other factors also, which as a whole preventing them from physically inactive, such as there is very less school supporting physical activity needs for kids with autism. And there is very few people working for people with autism too. So that leads to very less tailored program, which can make the autism kids to be training regularly, and which can reduce the issues they might face during the training session. And also last but very important things to be mentioned, since we are not letting them to play outside, just giving them the mobile, the iPad, or through movies, we ourselves making them physically less active. And that in turn leads them to lose interest in physical activity first and foremost, and they become so habituated, it is very hard for them to change in the later stage of their life. Moving on to guidelines.
Awesome. So now we've seen the barriers, we've seen the benefits, we've seen the what arises due to physical inactivity. So after all of this, we at Glee, we have carefully formulated a few guidelines, especially, like simple tips to just deliver a safe but still an effective exercise program. So the first thing is the exercise environment. The exercise environment, as Aswini mentioned earlier, it is very important because when you're trying to get an individual with autism involved in a physical activity, so the focus should be more on the physical activity. For example, you are conducting a group session and suddenly there is a loud noise, or you are playing a music that is very loud and then there is a bright light. So they are more likely to focus on that light and sound and get agitated than focus on the physical activity, which is going to give us a negative outcome. So an environment is very important for a successful physical activity. So the next one is a sensory friendly approach. So I'm going to say something that is called a sensory diet. So this is something when you incorporate a sensory stimuli with a physical activity or an exercise session. So for example, you can see here jumping on a trampoline, rolling on a bozo ball, and games with color cones. So games with color cones, for example, it increases their agility, it increases their coordination, it increases their motor skills. There are a lot of factors that are being improved with small changes like this. And don't forget to keep it fun all the time. So the next one, individualized exercise program. So I do support for individualized exercise programs, but it is very effective for an advanced group. So for example, neurodiverse athletes who are training for Special Olympics and things like that, a structured and a periodized program will be very helpful for them so that they can be consistent. But then what happens with individualized exercise programs is it limits the opportunities for developing the social communication skills. So with their peers and all that is being missed here. So I personally vote for a specialized group class just because. So imagine you're a coach and you're dancing it out, you're exercising, you're just making like fun games to it is actually a physical activity session that gives you so many positive outcomes, but then imagine you're just dancing it out, right? So, and a specialized group class, meaning, so say there are 10 children and each has a different sort of intellectual disability, one with autism, one with ADHD. That might be tricky because the other intellectual disabilities have different barriers. They all cannot be grouped under one. So you have to be very careful. It is more effective when you group individuals as autism, ADHD by their intellectual disabilities, and then create a specialized training program for them, which will give them a very effective outcome. So specialized group classes with autism so improves social functioning, muscular strength and endurance, and motor skill development. Again, the another major part is that you have to be ready to make changes, especially in a group session. So for example, in our class, so I was trying to uh, teach them side shuffles. Okay, so this is what I did. I lined them all up together. I asked them to hold their hands like this, all intertwined, and they were all in line. And I was like, okay, on my count, we are all going to go down, half sit, and then we are all going to walk together on the side. Imagine, like it improves their social connection, it improves their physical outcome. I can't even explain the benefits. It has great benefits. So, and then the other simple things would be that, so we always use visual supports just for them to be clear. If you're not able to use visual supports or images, you can always constantly keep demonstrating it throughout their sets and reps. Just keep demonstrating it. The next one, verbal instructions. Keep it very simple and direct. A classic example would be bridges. So you cannot go tell an individual with autism, oh, lift your hip, squeeze your glutes. No, the cues will not work like that. You just have to plain and simple say, lift your bum, down, up and down. That's it. So keep it very plain and simple. The next one, positive verbal feedback. Okay, we are all human beings. We all love motivation. So the positive encouragement is very, very, very important. Keep motivating them constantly. You're a coach, you're a supervisor, you're a teacher, you're a parent, keep that in mind. Physical prompts and token rewards. So for example, we always challenge them, and oh, okay, if you complete this, we are going to give you a sticker, or small things like that. So that positive recognition will always help them to be successful and do more, do more physical activity. They'll be like, okay, if I do this, I'm going to win this. That's how it is. The next one is warm up period. So I would always say, keep the warm up period fun and a little bit longer, just to gain their attention and get them involved into the physical activity session. The next one, break down skill components. So step by step. For example, you just cannot directly teach a squat or a push up to an individual with an autism. Rather, start with steps like, okay, how can they keep their back straight? How can they first bend with their back straight? How can they bend their knees with their feet apart? So start small and build step by step. And then cool down. So cool down is very, very important. Keep a very low paced, reduced tempo, preferably a static stretching. And here you can incorporate your mindfulness, your yoga and all of that. Just because, so during a physical activity session, we are all our heart rate is high, we are all happy, we are here. So for them to slowly return back to their daily living, you have to keep the tempo very low, calm them down, and then they are okay to go back. And then the last one, a welcoming phrase or a gesture. So a connection is very, very important. Like I mentioned before, you might be a supervisor, teacher, a parent, a peer, doesn't matter. So building that trust and motivating them is very, very important for them to actually get involved in that physical activity and trust the process. And that's it.
And we are done with today's session. I just want to conclude by saying the benefits or the positive outcome from physical activity is similar between people with autism and people without autism. So what is stopping us from implementing physical activity in their day-to-day routine? So thank you so much. Do reach out to us.
Do reach out to us for more support. We have a QR code here, and we have some links here if it'll benefit you.
And we are open for questions.
Awesome. You can always let us know if there are any further questions. You can DM us, or you can, connect to our page. Thank you so much, Autism Connect, for this opportunity. And thank you so much, the community, for listening to our session. Let's embrace wellness together. Thank you.
Thank you.